We on?
I don't know. Where's your phone?
Hey guys, Jared Littner. I just got back home from driving from the Open Championship at Table Rock Lake. It was a tournament that it was a win or go home for me. Actually, it was a tournament of win or go to the bracket championship at Carter's Lake in Georgia, which was another 600 miles east of where I was at. So I'm glad that I ended up winning and ultimately coming home. So it took us about 2.5 days to drive. We stopped at the Ranger Boat Factory over there in Flippin, Arkansas. On the way home, it was a little out of the way, but it was well worth the trip. But a lot of people have been asking me and calling and congratulating me on the tournament, and especially asking me about the baits I used. And it was kind of different, going into the event at Table Rock. I really expected it to be a top water deal. That's how I thought I was going to get one. I thought I was going to get one, a buzz bait, swim bait, whopper plopper, spook, something like that, in the backs of creeks. And what I found when I was there is the fish just weren't as far as long as I thought they were going to be. And I think that was because of the late summer. When I dropped my boat off there after Chateaugue, I went out for one afternoon before I flew out, and the water temp was like 84.5, 85 degrees, and it was flat out summer, and I looked at the long range forecast. It looked like there was some serious weather coming, and it happened. And I thought that would really trigger those fish to bite, but like I said, I couldn't really get that topwater bite deal going. I had a couple good ones in practice that either missed the bait, or I had my hooks cut off a couple of baits that I thought they were going to eat. So day 2 of practice, I kind of kept the topwaters on the deck, but I was like, man, there's got to be another way to catch them. And in the springtime, I've always caught them there, on wiggle warts and crankbaits and swim baits. And so I took off kind of doing that, and I went back out to the main lake, the main points, and I started working from there in, as opposed to going to the backs and working out. So what I found was they were on the first third of the creek channel swing, or a main lake point, or a pocket. And it had to be kind of a gradual tapering bank, not a real slow flat tapering bank, and not a sharp drop with big ledge rock or big channel rock on it, anything like that. But a nice mixture of that is where I started catching them. And the 3 baits I mainly kind of focused on, and like I said, I had probably 8 or 10 rods on my deck, but the main baits I caught them on this week was, right here is a Spro rock crawler 55. The original one goes 9 to 14 foot deep. This is phantom brown in color. It's got a really cool kind of transparent look to it, and did a lot of damage on that. However, when the clouds and stuff came over, especially day 2, it rained a lot. This is one of my favorite Jackal crankbaits right here. It's a Jackal MC60 MR, and it goes down to approximately 10 foot range, but it really works well in that 7 to 10 foot, and that's where I was getting a lot of those fish. This is a custom color I had painted by Tacklecraft, and it's really sweet. You can see it. I mean, it's kind of bluegillish, sunfish looking, and like I said, when it was cloudy, they seemed to come up better on this bait, and I caught a lot of them. But that was the main deal, though, that Spro, when it was sunny, especially the last day when it got flat and, high pressure, they ate this bait. And a real key thing that I was doing, as you could tell right here, I got this Trocar. It's a 2X Trocar, just round bend treble hook. And, well, I got one right here. I would replace these, and I really felt like, I was catching mainly smallmouth, which really kind of surprised me too, but everybody knows how smallmouth are on crankbaits and topwaters with trebles and stuff. I don't think I lost anything that really hurt me because I switched this out. This bait right here, the Spro, comes with, I believe, number 5s. As you can see, here's a 4, number 4 treble hook. So this is a 5, this is a 4, and this also is a Trocar that I switched out. But anyway, I upsized that treble hook right there, and I mean, there were several times where I probably shouldn't have, swung them in the boat, but ultimately I did, and I'd barely have them hooked. And I really think, that trocar was a big key to landing a lot of those fish. Another bait that I really thought in practice after I started getting bit doing this, people that don't know me, I love fishing, flipping, frogging, grass fishing, stuff like that. And I started running into these cedar trees, these isolated cedar trees, anywhere from like 10 to 18 foot, seemed like. And, I was throwing a spinnerbait by them. I think I caught one in practice on a wake bait. And ultimately, I started flipping this jig right here. This is a homemade jig by a buddies of Terry Scroggins. Got 300-pound mono weed guard, big old strong hook. Again, 3/4 ounce. And what I did was I got these skirts. This is one of my favorite color skirts. It's called Camo. It's made by All Terrain Tackle. It's just a skirt I got from Tackle Warehouse. I catch them from coast to coast on that color. That's one of my favorites. And I put a Strike King Rage Bug in blue craw on there. And to me, it kind of looked like a little bluegill, whatever else swims around that lake, I'm not sure. And I just make long pitches to those cedar trees, and in practice I was getting a lot of good bites on it. And I really thought that's what I was going to catch them on. I mean, even I think the third day of practice when it was kind of cloudy, overcast, a little bit of rain, they were still biting it. So I'm thinking, man, that's going to be my deal. And I caught a couple key fish that I weighed in the tournament on this, but it kind of went away. The last afternoon on day 3, I lost a couple that, I swung on. They had me bowed up and it come off, but ultimately the crankbait was the deal. I wish I could have had some of those bite back that I shook off in practice, because some of them felt pretty dang nice. But that's typical kind of fall fishing. Is you can start out thinking one thing, and you got to be willing to adapt. Because if I would have stuck with that topwater bait and just run that pattern, I don't know that there was necessarily enough fish up there to win. Granted, it's a giant, huge lake, and I'm sure that local guys there got some special creeks that it goes on first and things like that. But, I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I'm getting ready to go to Shasta, Monday. Just got home on Wednesday. Now I'm leaving to go to Shasta on Monday. But anyway, it's still kind of warm here in California. Like today is like 85 here at my house. Looked at the forecast up there. It's going to be low 50s and highs in the upper 70s. So again, I don't think that fall bite is going to be as long, that far along as it is in other parts of the country. I talked to some buddies that they're fishing, back east, and they're like, man, ever since that tournament, it's been cold. And I was watching the Bass Live stuff, and those guys look pretty chilly. And ultimately, I'm glad I'm sitting here at my house in 80-degree weather in California. So, but that's a recap of my tournament. The rods I used flipping the jig was an 894 GLX flipping stick with a Cronarch HG, and the crankbait rod, which was, I've thrown it before, and I really kind of, it's a new rod, a new revamped rod to their lineup, I should say that. It's a 7.2 medium heavy glass composite X-Pride, Shimano X-Pride rod. And again, those smallmouths out there, running and pulling as hard as they do, if I didn't have that rod, I probably would have pulled a lot of hooks, because even though they were like 2 to 2.5 pound smallmouths, they were going crazy. And if I wouldn't have had that combination, that rod, I don't think I would have landed all of them. And 12-pound reaction, or now they call it Crank FC by Sunline, and never broke off a fish. Cast really, really good, And ultimately, I could feel those bites on a long cast, even though when it was freezing, my hands were cold. Still detected those bites and caught those fish. So that's about it. Is there anybody got any questions or? Oh,
If not, you can always ask him after the fact, and Jared can answer them tomorrow or the next day or next week when you ask it.
all right, guys. Well, thanks for checking out Bass 360 Live, and hopefully we'll catch you after Shasta if I win that tournament. All right, I gotta go get ready. See ya.